So the question is, how do you become a director? The answer is, I don't know, and many people don't know. But what we can do is we can give you a lot of paths, and you can choose one of them. But mostly, or what happens is, actually, I can talk about myself. What happens is, you take up the camera, you look at, you look at a lot of movies, you watch a lot of movies, you read books, you listen to music, and you can come from different paths. So before I move into the other discussions, let me start with how can you become a director. Few things. You watch a lot of movies, you feel like you can tell a story. You pick up a camera and you shoot scenes, sometimes documentaries, sometimes just scenes, and then you play with it. But what happens is, I was also lucky because I played with digital cameras a lot. I played with these cameras a lot. But before the invention of digital camera, before the advent of digital camera, because point and shoot many people had, they could use that to create movies, even if I'm not considering the DSLRs or other cameras, but before that there were reels, 18 millimeter, 16 millimeter, different cameras and reels. But it is not about that, though the film will have a lot more depth and you can play with it, and it has its own magic, how you can play with the films. But digital offered a lot of opportunities too, easily available, one of the most important things, and you can play with it in post-production and all these things. Each will give you its own benefit, but the thing is playing with the camera, learning the visual language, telling a story, shooting something, the sheer magic of shooting something when you have a camera. It can be a still picture, it can be a video, it can be something you want to capture, the human element of the particular situation you want to document as a documentary, something that is grabbing your attention, something that you want to convey, and you are capturing that thing. It can be a 1 minute video, it can be a 2 minute video, it can be a 5 minute or 10 minutes video, depending on the situation, depending what you want to do. Sometimes you are creating 10 2 minutes video, and it is coming up to a 5 minute or 6 minute of a small film or a small video, because you're editing, cutting things out. Sometimes you precisely know what you are going to shoot, So you are taking 2 minutes of 5 videos and you are having 10 minutes or maybe 9 minutes or 8 minutes, whatever be the thing. Sometimes you know what you are going to shoot and you are just shooting it, because the editing is happening in the process. And when you are sitting in the editing table, very few things you need to work on. Sometimes you are shooting, you have opportunity, you are shooting a lot. Then when you have your dailies or your scenes and whatever you have shot in the editing table, or when you are sitting in the editing table, then you have a lot to play with. You are picking things from here and there and all these things. These things we play it with, camera, editing, the visual language, how you are capturing it, how you are saying something, how you are telling a story, music, how you created your own music, how you created a sound, how you created, a song for that particular. You sat with a bunch of friends and you came up with a song, you came up with music. The charm of making a movie, the magical experience of making a movie. Now we have seen the magic of cinema, but for a lot of people it's the mundane life, rat race, mundane life, and people become a part of it. Through years you wanted to become a filmmaker. Why I am saying this is because it is such a great profession, and the beauty of cinema, many people want to watch movies. Maybe you were once a part of them, Gradually you took a journey, your character arc, your arc or your journey or your transformation, whatever be the thing, you become a director. So you can tell a story. You had that, passion, enthusiasm, that love. You wanted to be that director, you wanted to tell stories, but you were one of them, part of them, or part of the society or part of groups, societies. But when you became a filmmaker, you had gone through a lot of struggles, you had gone through a lot of journey, So the mundane life will be there, the rat race will be there, this thing will be there, that thing will be there, parts of the society, people are part of them. But what cinema can play, what role can cinema play? Cinema has a role to play, and what is that, and what you can offer as a director, as an artist, that you can contribute to cinema, you can contribute to storytelling. So the thing is, the joy was, before you even wanted to be a filmmaker, before you, I want to be a filmmaker, before you decided that, sometimes we play with the camera, sometimes we play with what we want to capture, what we want to say, whatever we are seeing, we have our own perspective, what we want to express. So the same camera, maybe two different people are using, but two different people will come up with their own perspectives. Sometimes what happens is the director and cinematographer relationship, the director and composer relationship, and when you are playing with all these roles, as in cast and crew, you are switching. When you make an indie movie, you can play with all these things a lot. Or when you do the practical experimentation, maybe you are into music, but you are playing with the camera. So you have a knack for photography. So you can suggest, you can give your inputs, because filmmaking is a collaborative medium. So what happens is, whenever we are shooting, this happens a lot when we do this practical experimentation. We play with the camera, we play with the teams, and we have a lot of scope to experiment with. We can play with the sound, we can play with the music, we can play with what we are shooting, we can play with different scenes. Sometimes maybe the composer will go to a shoot and that person will shoot something that can be used in cinema too. So there is nothing good or bad in that sense. Whatever is helping the storytelling, whatever is helping the idea I want to convey, the film I want to shoot. So it's a very collaborative medium, and many people can play a lot of parts, but what role can cinema play, So we don't talk about these things much nowadays, and many people don't want to talk about all these things, but we should talk about this, because even when you are making a big budget film, a big budget film, you have your scheduling, you have your budgeting, you have your constraints, you have your time and budget constraints, and so many other things in terms of cast and crew and the entire production, if I talk about. But in the end, it will come to storytelling. It will come to the great film you want to make. You are giving the audience a great experience, entertainment, storytelling, performances. You are giving the audience a great experience. So that is something you always work on. And when you play with the camera, when you play with filmmaking, when you play with that experimentation, you can criticize, you can form a group where you can criticize, you can look at a lot of movies, and you can look at directing styles, you can look at editing styles, you can look at cinematography, how this film is different from this film, this film is different from that film, how these two directors are taking two different approaches, then how one cinematographer did this work and then this work, what was the difference, and maybe he has a certain kind of style, but when he is approaching two different stories, he is doing it in a different way. And if you want to have a feminine perspective, or you want to have a female DOP, what is the requirement? Maybe sometimes intuitively you are going for that. Sometimes specifically you are choosing a decision. You want to have a cinematographer who is very, a female cinematographer. You can do that, and we should have more roles for women, because I always vouch for women directors, women cinematographers, more women in the cast and crew. So it is a tough world, we know that, but in terms of storytelling, whatever is required. So how do you become a director? I don't know, you don't know. What happens is, we play with the camera, we want to tell a story, and suddenly we want to be a director, and very few people will stick to it, that passion and that enthusiasm. Because there will be a lot of hurdles, there will be a lot of people who will tell you that you cannot do this, you can do that, you cannot do this, so many things, But with indie movies, when you are doing this experimentation, there is no one telling you. So what you have is a camera, the cinematic language, how you can express, how you can play with it, you yourself and the camera, the cast and crew, how you can make a film, how you can experiment with it. And in this, one thing you can do is criticizing the movies. Those are already there. You are looking at the movies, observing, educational aspects of the movies, how you can understand the director's perspective or the voice. Then, when you are playing with it, you are playing with the scenes, how you can tell your story, how you can figure out your own voice, how you can, find a way to tell your story in your way, So most of the time, all these inspirations we have, those things have affected us. And that is the beauty of cinema. When we are telling a story, maybe one scene will relate to that scene, and we will enjoy that. And people will get entertained, and we don't talk about it, because cinema, we learn from cinema. The old classics, silent movies, animation, then whatever you can see, whatever you can see, how these people play with this cinematic language, how these people played with the visual language, and it is not just a bunch of things scattered and put together. It is like you are telling a story, or you are giving an experience, and how you tell the story. So much we can do during this. How you can tell the story, this timeline, when you are telling the story, you can play with this timeline. Suppose you are telling a story within 10 minutes. If you want to make a short film, you are playing with the storytelling, how the story is getting told, the act structures, or whatever you want to tell, the way you want to arrange, the way you want to tell a story, whatever. So many things you can do during this 10 minutes. But ultimately, when it is going to the audience, they are looking at this 10 minutes. They don't know what you did. They don't want to know. There was sometimes people will not want to listen to what you did, and they should not. Sometimes the entire experience of the 10 minutes, or the 10 minutes, that storytelling experience, that will grab the audience. They will be moved by the story. Some people will want to know, how did you make the movie? Some of them will be critics, some of them will be aspiring filmmakers, some of them will be people who want to know more about cinema. They want to criticize cinema in a better way. They want to understand the aesthetics of cinema, the craft, the art of cinema, the techniques of cinema, how you are making the movie, what went through the process, what went through during making of the movie, the process of making the movie. Some people will learn to ask. Not everyone will ask.